You're listening to the Fezcast, the Saracens fans podcast, bringing you the independent and unhinged views of the voices in our heads, as well as those of our special guests. To get in touch with us, find the Fezcast on social media and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube and more. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a more cheerful Fezcast than last week's. We had three grumpy buggers last week, me, Matt, and Duncan. Well, Matt's back with us with a bit of a smile on his face, and we're joined by, well, I was going to say the new boy, but I mean, he's once in a blue moon performance. Sam's joining us to talk about. Well, you just turned up after a big win, isn't it, Sam? That's what it is. You decided all the inconsistent games you don't want to be involved in, but when it's a big win, you're going to jump on that.
I'm a glory boy. What can I say? I'm a glory boy. I'm just here for the good times. I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Well, absolutely. Well, it was a fantastic experience on Sunday, weren't it? I mean, absolutely brilliant. And welcome back, Sam. And looking forward to your input on all that. Before we go into the main bones of it, we're going to talk about the Women's Six Nations first up, which is going to be interesting because we've only really seen highlights, haven't we? Because we've all been doing other bits and pieces. But yeah, Matt, you're a lot happier this week than you were last week, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think more of a ruthless streak shown from the England women's team. I mean, it was probably closer to an England A team than last week's match, which is probably fair to say. You know, there were various players rotating, but there were 13 changes made to the starting lineup and a fairly mixed bench as well. But yeah, they put their foot down and kept it down. Whereas against Italy, that didn't really happen. So yeah, much happier.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, the first thing to say is there's been a little bit of controversy that's come out. I've been reading about today about, in particular, Jasmine Joyce Butcher's doing a TikTok dance with Sarah Byrne, and she's been taking a little bit of the rounds of the kitchen sink. And I can kind of understand why, because, you know, you've just been thumped badly. And I think if after this game's going to have a lot of correlations with what our men did to Wales men in the Six Nations men's tournament. If you'd seen Jack Morgan having a bit of a TikTok dance with Maro Itoje afterwards, I mean, he probably wouldn't have got out of Cardiff alive. So, yeah, I could understand that. You've just been thumped. You probably want to show a bit of contrition. But, you know, Jasmine's come out this today and said, look, you know, it's all about growing the game. It's all about the occasion and everything. And I could see that point of view, Sam. I mean, it's an interesting dichotomy, isn't it? In so much as, do you want to grow the game, or, you know, perhaps you need to read the room a bit first?
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, as someone that does a lot of stuff on social media and also someone that's played a bit of rugby over the years, you'll know this, Jez, from your playing days. When you get thumped, you don't want to talk to anyone, let alone jump on, do some sort of dance on TikTok. So I think from my perspective, I do think you're right. You've got to read the room in those kind of circumstances. But also I'm thinking actually about, why were you even in the mindset to feel that was something that you were happy to do? Like I said, if I've been on the end of a thumping and that's playing for, you know, Barnet twos or something, I don't want to talk to anyone. I'll just want to go home and have a few beers. I don't want to be doing anything whatsoever. I don't want to be getting up and playing games. I don't want to be doing any of that stuff. So it's the mindset of the player of what, you know, she's just been on the end of a thumping, and her country has just witnessed it, and now they're watching her do that. And, you know, is that the right message to be sending out? Yes, okay, so we want to grow the game, but there's a time and a place, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, isn't it? It's the mindset. If that's the mindset after the game, wasn't that the mindset before the game? When I think there was an element when you looked at the Welsh players, Matt, where they were almost defeated before they went out there, because, look, we're playing England. England are so good. We're not going to win. We're just going to enjoy the occasion. We're at the Principality Stadium. There's thousands of people watching us. We're going to enjoy it. And really, should you be enjoying that sort of occasion? Doesn't the enjoyment come from putting up a bit more of a better performance?
Oh, I can see it both ways. I mean, it maybe a bit later on would have been the right thing. I mean, it's worth saying that the two of them are club mates. They spend a lot more time together at club level than you mentioned Maro Itoje and Jack Morgan. They're only really going to come across each other in an international match or potentially a one-off Champions Cup match, whereas Jazz Joyce and Sarah Byrne spend a lot of time in each other's pocket. And yeah, growing the women's game is growing exponentially over the last few years, and things like TikTok, I've no interest in it whatsoever, but they're absolutely paramount to that. They're the reason why it's got the audience it has. The audience has grown, and the younger audience as well. So yes, do it, but yeah, maybe in the immediate aftermath of the game, it doesn't look fantastic. So
yeah, I think we said the same, didn't we, last week when we talked about the timing of the announcement about the Showdown 6, which after a bumping was, maybe we could have left it a couple of days, whatever. Yeah, I mean, these people have paid an awful lot of money, the social media people. She would have been advised that it'd been okay. I would have thought, one of those things. And of course, the only sort of bad publicity is no publicity at all, isn't it? Going on to the game, though, for Saracens women players who were involved or not involved, it was a bit of a mixed bag, wasn't it? I think Jess Breach didn't have her most brilliant game, but Zoe Harrison, I think, had a really good game, but going to put it out on this. And there was a lot of people I was speaking to yesterday at Tigers who were saying that she wasn't getting the right due respect from the commentary team on the television and that her play deserved. I mean, there's a couple of beautiful assists she put in. I mean, there was one for a kick over for Abby Dow, wasn't there, that she scored in the corner. That was absolutely beautiful. I mean, she got 6 out of 11 kicks, and they weren't easy kicks by any stretch of the imagination. Zoe had a really good game and should have nailed down that number 10 spot, shouldn't she, Matt?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, Zoe's probably a victim of her own success in a way. She's set such a consistently high standard for so long. When she has a good game, it kind of gets ignored because she does that all the time. You mentioned Jess. I mean, Jess herself is only 3 or 4 games into her season after a long injury, so she's obviously going to be a little bit rusty. But yeah, Zoe, that kick over to Abby Dow in the to score in the corner is all over social media and various other bits. So it's definitely got the plaudits after the game. But yeah, it was quite a strange reaction to that.
Yeah, I mean, a fantastic kick. I mean, perhaps you should have done a soft shoe shuffle at the end of it just to get the dancing in, maybe. I don't know. But the one thing I will do is, and I am going to make a criticism here of John Mitchell. It's a small criticism. At the end of the day, England are in the business of winning, and he picked a team that he felt would win, and they win well. They did. I mean, it's almost a case of what the men did to Wales, the women can do equally as good, if not better. But we do pump May Campbell a lot on here because we think she's worth giving the support. She's a fantastic player. She's had, 10 minutes, quarter of an hour last week against Italy to show what she could do, and she did very, very well. We mentioned it there. And then this week, she's nowhere near the team. And you'd have thought against Wales, Sam, a weaker team in the Six Nations, this would have been an ideal game for John Mitchell to turn around to May Campbell and say, right, you're starting, May, let's see what you can do. My fear is now that she's going to have just 15 minutes in the tournament. He's not going to pick her because he'll go with Cockayne and Atkin-Davis, which is his prerogative. But, what's the point of that to May Campbell, and what's that going to do to her confidence, more importantly, if that is the case?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're in a World Cup year, and I would imagine a team like England, they've been building towards this since the last World Cup, to be honest. And I think at this stage, look, I think it's good that we've made some changes and we're testing out players. But the reality is, if you look back to some of the more successful teams that we've seen in the past in the men's game, they've been teams that really have been experimented on for about 2 or 3 years, and then you nail your squad down in the last year, and you just get them playing as often as possible with each other. Clearly, May's not right in the forefront of John's mind. And she hasn't really been given the opportunity recently, as you say, to put her best foot forward. But there's an argument for has the sun already set in terms of he's actually already got probably most of the names on his team sheet for that World Cup, and this Six Nations is more a case of just giving as much of the players that he believes will be in that starting sort of 23 and the fringes around that as much game time as possible. That I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit. Obviously, we want to see as many of our girls on it won't be on the plane, it'll be on the bus to the World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that potentially is the only reason I can think of. You know, when you've got a player playing really well at club level, you want to see him playing well at international, and not seeing her get the opportunity is frustrating as a Saracens fan, I suppose.
It's something to keep an eye on. It is something to keep an eye on for the rest of the tournament. Obviously, if she then ends up playing against Scotland and Ireland, then plan was there. John Mitchell's comments at the start of the tournament were that he wants to try and build two teams over the course of this Six Nations, so that going into that World Cup, if one or two of your main characters in that squad pick up an injury, there are experienced people to drop in. So, the proof will be in the minutes that the likes of May Campbell gets in the tournament, as someone who is still a part-time, in inverted commas, rugby player compared to the other two hookers in the squad that are full-time. So, I don't know, if we see May play against, I think we've got Ireland in the next match, if we see May play in that game, start that game, or come off the bench for a half, then that'd be fair dues. But yeah, I did wonder whether this would be the game for her, but we'll see over the course of the whole tournament.
Yeah, I just think the fact of the matter is that your first two choices. Now, May's not first choice. Let's get that straight out there. Cockayne and Akin Davis have got 750 caps between them. You know what they're going to do. My problem is if one of those breaks down between now and the World Cup, as could happen, where do you go? And John Mitchell, I would think, would more than likely go back to Connie Powell at Harlequins because she's got the experience and has got the 30 or so caps. And May will get, without really doing, one, not doing anything wrong, and two, not being given the opportunity to stake a claim. And that concerns me going forward for her future. But as I say, let's wait to see what happens, and maybe, she will get a start at some point in the Six Nations. I sincerely hope so, and I think she deserves it. Shall we have a break there, and then we'll come back in the second half, and we'll discuss Tiggers Away, because that's, cheesy winner smiles, isn't it?
You're listening to the Fezcast.
You are listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracens Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, yeah, welcome back. And yeah, I suppose we've got to talk about Tigers Away. And I think the word I want to think about is reaction. And I really will suggest, first of all, guys, that if you haven't seen it yet, check out the video that Saracens put out today of Dan Vickers talking to the team. And reaction was a huge thing. And it was so passionate. I mean, I love Dan Vickers to bits. I mean, when I interviewed him, he was passionate and a lovely guy to boot. But here, he showed what it means to be a Saracens, in the Saracens outfit, in a season where things haven't gone perhaps as well as they have in the past, where we've had to react more times than we have needed to do in past seasons. But each time the boys need to go to the well, they've gone to the well and they've come up drinking, haven't they, Sam?
Yeah, I think, look, I was sitting on the train up to Leicester thinking that we're not going to win this game. Off the back of the performance last week, which we've done to death in terms of talking about, it was drab in every way, shape or form and unfulfilling. And it was a performance we're not used to seeing as Saracens fans. At least we want to see a bit of fight, and we didn't see it. the reaction there was fantastic, particularly in when we had. Well, I was going to say when we had the ball, but actually it was probably more so when we didn't. That was the Saracens of old. That was the Wolfpack. They did score that try through Stewart, which, to be honest with you, I mean, it took Leicester a lot longer to score that try than it would have done against any other team in the league. But it was the defense. It was the hunger. I think that was what it was. The players went out there and they wanted to play again. Seeing both games live, you could see in the way that they just carried themselves. It was a different Saracens that stepped onto the field at Welford Road. Sorry, Mattioli Woods, Welford Road. I'm sure there's a bet going on in BT Sports or whatever it's called nowadays of how many times they say that. But it was a different team that stepped out, and it's not. It's nice to see. Do I think we're going to make the playoffs? I think it's touch and go. But days like that are nice and a nice reminder of the mentality that we have at Saracens.
Yeah, it was huge. And I mean, the first thing I wanted to also say is about the away experience. I will call it Welford Road because, quite frankly, we were limited on our times. If we keep on saying the full name, we'll be going over, and Matt will be having to speak to the people about how much it costs us. But the away experience was great. I followed on from the conversation we had last week at the end of the show, talking about away sections for fans. I was with all the SSA guys. Well done, Loxley, for organising those tickets and everything like that. Nigel Eaton was down there. John Timms, rent-a-gobs, as it were, and you could hear them. We could hear us all there. There's some great photographs that Loxley's put up as well. And it was great to meet some people there who turned around to me and says, didn't recognise your face, recognise your voice though, Jess, which is always nice to know that people do listen to Fezcast, particularly Mike and a few other people down there, Neil as well, and whatever. But it was a fantastic experience. Leicester fans were great. Going in, met Mike Dixon, their PIF helmet wearer, and lovely bloke. They were wonderful, really, and it was just a great experience. And even coming out, Tigers fans were obviously disappointed. I mean, I think their anger was more vented towards Luke Pearce, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But, they were wonderful. It was just a really great experience. And, but then coming away with a win like that and the boys coming over to our little section, and you could see how much it meant to them that we were there supporting them.
Yeah, you know what? Kudos to the Tigers fans. I was a bit further back up in the upper rafters, and great. I've got to say, great atmosphere, great view, great set of fans, great rugby town. City, and fans around us were all Tigers fans. We were chatting away to them. Had a lovely chat with some Tigers fans on the train over as well. Great set of fans, very knowledgeable, and it just made for a good atmosphere. And I think what both sets of fans did come away with was, whatever team you supported, whether it was Tigers, Saracens, or any other team, it was two teams that were going absolutely hammer and tong at each other. And that's what you want to be seeing. You want to see those games where both teams. It really could have gone either way. To be fair, as much as we're praising Saracens, it could have gone either way. Tigers, did a couple of silly things which led to tries, and that was the difference in the end. Really, I think we took our chances a little bit more than they did. We defended a little bit better than they did. And that was it, really. Apart from that, both teams pretty even, and I think the fans that were there, enjoyed good rugby spectacle.
Well, indeed, yeah, and I think you're right. Rugby was the winner on that game because it was, if you were a neutral watching that game, it was a great game of rugby. I had everything. I had a bit of controversy here. But the important thing is, Matt, it seems like they might be listening to the Fezcast, because the one thing we asked for them to do last week was to tear up the game plan, the plan A, and to use Ivan van Zyl and Fergus Burke's skills, as we know they are. And we did. I mean, I think Duncan sent a WhatsApp message after about 32 minutes saying we haven't seen a box kick yet. And then we put up a box kick. But, we were putting up box kicks at the right time. And, I mean, I think first half, the wind was in our face. So it kind of negated the tactic anyway. So it was more perhaps out of necessity that we run the ball a bit more often. But we saw some attacking attempt. We saw some pace. I mean, in particular, I think Tom Willis bursting onto balls, whether they were kicks from Tigers that went down his throat, and he just went charging back like a galumphing elephant on a rampage or whatever. But Alex Lazowski, before he went off injured, was finding gaps. Nick Tompkins was finding gaps again, like he always used to do. And Fergus Burke was running moves because he was getting such quick ball from Ivan Van Zyl, because our forwards were giving him a platform and he was going, thank you very much, bang, and it was like 2 seconds ruck speed and it was out, Matt.
You asked me something so long ago, I've forgotten what it was. Yeah, I mean, I think, well, we keep a little eye on the download figures for this show, and last week's show is actually right up there, sort of in terms of our most listened to shows of the year, even though it's been out for a week. So either the whole squad has been listening to us, and let us know if you are, or more likely, everyone likes to tune into us when they think we're going to have a whinge, and obviously losing the Showdown was that. But yeah, there was definitely a reaction. Definitely reaction to the Showdown game. It wasn't the finished article by any stretch, but we weren't asking for it to be. We just wanted to see something a little bit different, trying some new things. And yeah, you mentioned the likes of Van Zyl, Fergus, Burke. We spoke about it last week, where the whole game's got to come from them, and they're not playing to their strengths. And I think certainly for some of the try scoring, it was playing more to Van Zyl and Burke's strengths. It was faster ruck speed. Burke was able to run sideways like he's capable of doing. And yeah, everything worked really in that regard. Even some of the tries that were conceded, you just saw the defence was scrambling quicker, better, faster. I think, was it for Stewart? I don't think it was for Stewart's try, but the Mole that broke away pretty much on half time. And I think Montoya, 99 times out of 100 would have scored the try from that. But Nick Tompkins flew round the side of the Mole and managed to stop Montoya 2 inches from the line. Yes, they scored from that ruck anyway, but you just saw that commitment coming in, which I really don't think we've seen in some games since the start of January. So, yeah, I feel an awful lot better after that game that something is being tried. Things are being played a little bit differently. But yeah, we could quite easily have lost that as well. But I think we might have still been a little bit happy with the performance.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Matt. I mean, so talking to everybody in the pub meet beforehand, and people were quite pessimistic in their outlook. They were not entirely confident at all. I think it was going in with an expectation that if we got a couple of points out of it with a, tried bonus scoring, losing bonus point, then we would have been quite happy, provided we saw a improvement in the way we played. We saw an improvement in the way we played, and yeah, it was fantastic because that improvement got us the win. That we did take the chances. I mean, against Quins, we had more than enough chances, I felt, to win that game and just didn't take them for whatever reason. This game, everything seemed to click, and I think it was because everybody stepped up a couple of percent, and it's all it needed is a couple of percent. It wasn't huge amounts of improvement needed, but it just needed a couple of percent increase in accuracy, couple of percent increase in commitment, couple of increases in determination, and we saw it, and it reaped benefits. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. And as you say, Sam, it was a close match. I mean, it is a match that if we're playing the way we did in other games this season, and you think Quins, you think Castra or whatever, we would have lost that game quite easily. But this time, it just seemed to go right.
Yeah, and I think what Matt said is absolutely spot on. We had players. Nick Tompkins is a great player to pick out actually, because the Nick Tompkins of old, when he first burst on the scene, the step, the dynamism that he's got. I feel like we haven't really seen it. I don't know if playing for Wales has beaten it out of him a little bit, but that would beat anything out of anyone, really, wouldn't it? But he hasn't really been our Nick Tompkins this year, and he really was. He was back to what we see of him, and as Matt said, he's known for his little steps, his little jinxes, and his try scoring. But he's also, as for Saracens fans, he's known for being that guy that will put his body on the line. I mean, he had to. Don't forget, this is the man that had to step in and be the next Brad Barrett. So he always had that on his shoulders, and he's always lived up to it. And he hasn't recently, and he really did on Sunday. Sorry. And I think one of the things you picked up on a few players, but I think this year our forwards on the whole have been all right. There's been a few setbacks and stuff. But I think it's our backs that just haven't really been going the way that they have done in recent years. And obviously, you can then put the blame on the Ivan Van Zils, the Fergus Burks that are meant to be driving that forward. But one of the things I've sort of struggled with this year is I feel that for some reason Tompkins and Lazowski haven't really sort of blended as well as they have done recently in recent years. And we haven't been able to get Daly into games as much. So in the backs, we haven't really been firing, and I think we really were. And I think where we do really well is where we blend the backs and the forwards together. We've got a back row and a 2 second rows as well, and plus Jamie George that likes to kick the ball about a bit, that can chuck a ball about as good as a back. When you look at Gonzalez, and I mean, I think McFarlane had his best game for a long time. I know you're a big fan, Jez.
Yep.
When you've got those guys into in between the backs and they're there and they've got the arms as long as tree trunks that can chuck balls about as well. I think that's what won us the game, actually, if I'm honest. I think it was our ability to get the backs and the forwards working together in open play, throwing quick ball that scares defences. And I think that was certainly true for the first 2 tries. And that's what set us the platform to win the game. So I think if we can try and do that a bit more this year, we give ourselves every opportunity to make those playoffs.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and we'll discuss that a bit later on, because this is where there is a little bit of a grey line into the silver cloud from this game. But yeah, Theo McFarlane's someone that we really need to pull out and talk about, because I think, the reason I like him as a lot is I see the potential. You've got to remember, this guy is still relatively new to the game. The rugby union is not his first game. He's played other sports before he's come here. So, in terms of, he's not been playing the game since he was 10 years old. He's been playing rugby, and he was introduced at the very highest level almost. So, I really think he's finding his feet now. And I know, Matt, your criticism in the past was very much along the lines of, he drifts in and out of games. I think now he's found that consistency to go along with that bit of magic, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. My criticism was always either as a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 game, or a 2 out of 10. And we've seen that 6, 7, 8 that you really want for him. So yeah, there's players like that are vitally important to how we play. I much prefer him playing in the back row to the second row, I must admit. But yeah, he's been fantastic. And just to go back to what Sam said, I think it pretty much sums up our season and the games that we've won and the games that we've lost. Matches against Newcastle, Castra, Exeter, the backs and the forwards seem to be 2 completely different teams. And you've got your scrum half who's sort of trying to change the game from one to the other, and that's about it. They just look entirely disconnected. And when we're playing really well, they're all popping up all over the place. So yeah, absolutely bang on. But our back row is absolutely stacked, with McFarlane being one of them, Gonzalez, Bernal coming in. Sometimes we've got a bench of, you could have Gonzalez, Christie and Earl all on one bench and still be playing a full strength back row. It's absolutely amazing. So yeah, we need to utilise them a lot better than we have done this season. Really.
Yeah, we do. However, the person that I really want to pull out, I mean, Maro Itoje got the man of the match, and I think we'll discuss Maro in a minute in relation to him and Luke Pearce, his best buddy. But the one person I really want to mention, I think he was my man of the match, is the lad I spoke to a couple of weeks ago at the training ground, Marco Riccioni. One of the grey linings to the silver cloud is the fact that both our props went down very early on in the game and got injured. Marco, though, came on for Fraser Balmain in the second minute and put in a monumental shift. He came, I was going to say he came running over to us at the end, and I shook his hand and had a quick chat with him and everything. He didn't. He hobbled over like he was an 80-year-old bloke going to get his pension from the post office on a Thursday morning. He looked absolutely shagged. But he put in a monumental shift. And, you talked about it, Sam, didn't you, when you said last year our front row was a level of concern. And I think that we really do need to pay credit to what work Rob Webber has done with our front row, because he's got them solid in the scrum, whilst not losing any of the mobility that we have around the pitch. And Marco came on early doors and just was superb. And Reece Carey came on perhaps earlier than he thought he would do as well for Oni Maui. And you know, they were both superb.
I think I know it's impossible to not like Marco Riccioni, isn't it? I mean, even the away fans were enjoying his performance. But I've got to say, and this is as a back that doesn't understand the dark arts of the scrum. I think one of the turning points of the game was Reece Carey coming on, because he had Hayes' number from day dot, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like he came on with the sole purpose of making it difficult for Hayes to get picked for international rugby. He literally just destroyed him. And I mean, great to see from a Saracens point of view. I'm a big Reece Carey fan this time around. I wasn't the first time around. But yeah, Riccioni, what a stint. But I think a lot of praise has to go on Reece Carey for coming on a bit earlier, probably than he was planning on doing. And then, yeah, changing that scrum time to being a real dominant. And to go to Welford Road, I was going to say it again then, Welford Road and dominate in the second half, Leicester in the scrum, like that's quite enjoyable to watch, even as a soft back.
I mean, let's be honest, mate. You look at Reece Carey, and I mean, it's like you need a forklift truck to move him, don't you? I mean, you're not going to. Mere mortals can't move that bloke. I mean, he is humongous, and you know, but fit as well. And I mean, you know, he's a throwback to a previous time. But I mean, Welsh coach Warren Gatland must be sat there thinking, you know, why did I do what I did? Because I mean, Reece Carey has had a fantastic season for us, and really, I don't care if he's not hitting the figures on the beep test or whatever. He is an absolute animal, and
he's hitting the figures on the scrum test, isn't he?
Well, that's for certain. I mean, good God, I mean, it's just outstanding what he's doing. So, yeah, those guys were great. Now, I did mention Maro Itoje and I did mention Luke Pearce, and a lot of the I'm not going to say the real Leicester Tiger fans, the ones that are at the ground. I mean, they had a little bit of a whinge about the forward pass to Angus Hall. Well, Luke Pearce saw it and he had the whistle in his hand and he said it was in line. And let's be honest about it, you'll go through the season and you'll have those ones go against you and you'll have those ones go for you. It swings and roundabouts. It happens. The referee saw it and it was a beautiful move. Let's be honest about it, and deserved to try. And I don't care whether it was a Dan Marino pass, to be perfectly honest with you, at the end of it. It was a fantastic move. And Angus Hall, I mean, there's a bit like Tobias Elliott at the start of the season. When he started scoring tries for fun at the start of the season, he went, well, where did that come from? Angus Hall showed that he is a finisher. You know, I've often said, you have players who can finish tries and you have other players who struggle to finish tries. And, you know, you think back, Chris Ashton was someone who just knew where the whitewash was and he scored tries. David Strettle was, you know, Angus Hall and Tobias Elliott both know where that whitewash is and they will score tries. And Jack Bracken's another one we've seen come in. He will score tries every time they get near the try line, and it was well taken. But yeah, Luke Pearce has come in for a bit of criticism online from Leicester Tigers fans, being called Saracens' 16th man. I think it's just a bit of a sea change for Luke, because when Owen contractual mention of Mr. Farrell going in, him and Luke never really seemed to see eye to eye. But Maro was having a constant conversation with Mr. Pearson, got him fully on our side, didn't he, Matt?
Two very different people, aren't they? Owen Farrell and Maro Itoje. You can see, I mean, I think it was last season actually, where there was some serious beef between Owen and Luke Pearce, and that was actually the point where I was starting to think that Owen needed a break. But yeah, no, it's good to see again. Maro, I've criticised. I probably haven't criticised Maro's captaincy, but I've had concerns about his captaincy this season. They were very much proved wrong during the Six Nations, and I think he's now starting to show that at club level as well. I don't care about Maro. I want to talk about Angus Hall again. He's been name-checked by a lot of people around the club before the start of this season, before he even he's only just come through the under-18s academy, and he came through as a 13. And he's played in the England under-20s Six Nations in the 13 shirt as well. So I'm quite excited by obviously what he's managed to do in his few appearances on the wing for us, and whether he can become that dynamic outside centre that we're possibly looking out for. I mean, you mentioned Tobias Elliott, Jack Bracken, Angus Hall. That's, that could be 11, 13, 14, possibly one of those in the 15 shirt as well. And there's others coming through too. There are a lot of exciting young backs, which some of our more senior guys are kind of holding the fort for. So aside from the result this weekend, it does look really exciting, that.
It does indeed. Lots of, and I think that's is the thing, isn't it? When we talked last week about the disappointment we felt, I think a lot of that is to do we can see the potential is there to play that game plan, which we think we need to play to be able to develop this group of youngsters through to be the next dynasty, maybe Mark McCall's last dynasty, Sam. And, really important that we see these players come on. But more importantly, I think, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, is the fact that even if we would lose matches or whatever, is seeing players who are obviously suited to this level of rugby.
That's it. I mean, on the final point on the Luke Pearce thing, I was on the platform at Leicester not so long after the final whistle, and Luke Pearce was on the platform with me. So maybe he wanted to get out of Leicester quickly. I don't know, but or he had an engagement. But what I will say is, as I said, I was sitting surrounded by Tigers fans. I don't think I really heard too much in the stands in terms of negativity towards the referee, which suggests to me it is maybe a few keyboard warriors. I personally don't think he had a terrible game. He missed a couple of bits for both teams. I think it all evened itself out. I mean, the win today evened itself out for a couple of years ago when we should have won that one. But Angus Hall, Tobias Elliott. I've been intrigued with Tobias for a little while because I've followed him on the old socials, and he's been playing at Ampthill and stuff and putting in good performances. I think his long term is at fullback. Being brutally honest, I think he as a 10, he's obviously got those skills as a game manager as well, which I think will be well suited there. So as we've said, you want to see these guys playing, even if potentially there is concerns over whether we're going to win games all the time. Of course we want to win, and of course when we've got a smaller season, every single game counts. But just giving these guys playtime, even if Elliott was on the wing, for example, and then finished the game at fullback and Daly went off, just giving them the 10 minutes at the end to see what they can do, I think is really, really important. But I'm like Matt, I'm actually very excited by some of the youngsters coming through. Theo Dan's still a youngster. We've got loads of young players that can be that next dynasty, I think.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned Theo Dan, because we do have to move on to perhaps some of the grey linings to that silver cloud that I've been mentioning more and more often throughout this. And Theo, unfortunately, is one of those around the park. I mean, he's explosive. I mean, I don't think I've seen a hooker quite as explosive around the park as he is. I mean, you talk about hookers being supplementary flankers. I mean, he is the epitome of that. But his line-out throwing has gone to absolute pot at the moment. And I mean, Jamie George is one of the best line-out throwers there's ever been, and a great exponent of it. He hit his men every time. And you've got Hugh Tizard, who had another great game as well. I mean, he goes under the radar, but Hugh had a fantastic game. Maro Tosi, Juan Martin Gonzalez, and Theo McFarland. You've got 4 exceptionally good line-out performers there, and Theo couldn't have hit them with a banjo, unfortunately. And I begin to wonder whether there's a confidence issue there on that side of things with him, whether it's the fact that he's been out injured, he's been on England training, he's not been around Saracens camp or whatever. Has he got a bit rusty? We always said that his throwing in was a bit of a concern, and then it got better. He seems to have taken a little bit of a step backwards on that side of things at the moment, Matt.
Yeah, a little bit. It's hard to know what the answer is there sometimes. Just a little bit of cohesion in the line out. Jamie George is a world-class operator and continues to be, and it might be that actually there's something not quite right about the timings that Jamie is able to counteract, whereas Theo Dan doesn't quite have that experience. So not going to entirely put it down to him just yet. But yeah, there definitely seems like there is a bit of a confidence thing with him. But like I said, he's done it before. He improved massively with his line-out throwing, having come back from quite a serious injury as an even younger youngster than he is now. So there's no saying that he can't do it again. But yeah, one grey area.
Yeah. Now moving on to the other one, and this is the weird one. I'm going to throw this out here now because we've spoken at length now about what a great performance it was against Leicester Tigers, and it was, and the lads have got to be applauded for their reaction. But I've just done some quick maths, and if we'd beaten Quins last week with a bonus point and scored 5 points, we'd be now sitting in third in the league with 44 points. And Quins, instead of having 37 points, would have had 33 points. So they'd have been totally out of it. So the league would look Bath on 56, Bristol on 46, us on 44, Leicester on 41, Gloucester on 41, who we've got at StoneX next. You know, we could have been sitting pretty in the playoffs. As it is, we're down in 6th place now on the same amount of points as Sale, 2 points behind Gloucester and Leicester, and definitely, I would imagine, out of reach of second and first, so a home semi-final if we do qualify for the playoffs. So as great as it was to go to Leicester Tigers, it really does make the performance the week before even more galling because of the fact that it's just a huge missed opportunity, Sam.
Yeah, and do you know what? I keep mentioning the fact of sitting in a bowl full of Tigers fans on the weekend, but it was interesting actually to get the other side of things, to listen to others. You don't get those reactions all that often. And one of the things that there was a little kid sitting behind me, and his dad was reeling off all the England internationals and all the other internationals that were at Saracens. He's like, "There's Maro Ochoa, he's the captain. That's Jamie George over there. Yeah, he plays for England as well. Oh, Daly there, he plays." And you just forget quality that we've got. Like we've got on paper the best team in this league. For man, on paper, we have the best team. There's a couple of positions that are shaky, but I believe that we've got it. And it's frustrating, performances last week. If you run through a team, a lot of those players will be on a lot of people's lists. We just need him to get a firing together. And you're right, it is massively frustrating watching games like last week because of this. I guess the message that I'm sure Smalley and the coaches will be saying to the team is, look, that's done now. We can't change it. We're in the position we're in. And actually, there is an element of our fate almost still being a little bit in our hands because of the teams that we've got to play. We've got to play Gloucester. We've got to play Sale. These are really tough games. But if we win them, they're all playing each other as well. Teams are going to take, they're going to take points off each other. If we win all of our remaining games, we'll get in the playoffs. And I think that's the way that we've just got to look at it. And I think that's why they're making the decision that they're making this weekend with giving a lot of players a bit of rest time. They've realised that if we're going to get into those playoffs and we've got a chance of still winning this league, then we've got to sacrifice the Champions Cup. And I think they're making the right call there. But ultimately, although we're in 6th, it's really tight. It's as tight as it's been in a long while. And I still feel that if we can put more performances in like we did on Sunday rather than last Saturday, we'll be in there.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Sam. I'm just, playing a little bit of devil's advocate in so much as that, and I said it last week, didn't I, Matt, that, there are some seasons where you thought, could we go 100% or, be invincible? This season definitely wasn't one of those. But it's, when the coaches look back at the end of the season, review it, it's the games you should have won or the higher probability that you should have won where we haven't won. Newcastle away, no disrespect to Newcastle, but that was just horrific. And Quins at home is another one that those two games we'd have been up there challenging Bath. And as you say, I think it's only Bath that, with their salary cap managerial coercion, whatever it may be, their squad is fantastic as well. So to be up around them would be absolutely fantastic. And perhaps we should be. So that's why I'm saying it's a missed opportunity. But you're right, we do have to talk about Toulon next week. And I mean, I did find out, I had a chat with Ian George, Jamie's dad, after the game. and he was saying that the lads are being given this time off, and then the club have announced it today that they're going to send a team down to Toulon, top of the top 14. I don't think the club particularly wants to have to go through the bother of beating Toulon and then having to go down to the south of France to play Toulouse again, or whatever. It's just, in seasons where you got to give players rest and everything, this is the right thing to do, isn't it? Is to, as I think Planet Rugby put it, take the controversial Jake White view of it. Well, I don't necessarily see it as too controversial. I think the Champions Cup is an absolute. Right, in a game that's badly run, this is one of the things that is really badly run, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, I must say, the format of the tournament, I think I enjoy it a lot more than some other people. The presence of the South African teams is something that winds me up. But I mean, I will have a different opinion depending on the exact team selected. And it sounds like Mark McCall is going to go the way I would prefer, which is not to send all the 18-year-olds down there for an 80-0 thumping. It's to rest the England players, but still select a team that he believes is capable of at least competing in that game. And that's absolutely fine. And give Tobias Elliott, give Angus Hall, give Nathan Mikolo the opportunity to show themselves in a big game. But don't treat it like a Prem Cup game where they've got all of the other academy lads around them. You put other first team players in there who actually haven't played very much over the last couple of months, and you never know. Harlequins beat us with their reserves. Castra beat us with their reserves. Why can't we beat Toulon with our reserves? I don't know. But yeah, I think ultimately for me it is the right call, but I'm not someone who can afford to take a plane out to Toulon and watch the game and be disappointed that we're putting out a second string side. So that's the other factor.
Well, of course, yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, it comes down to the performance that we see from the team. And, even if it was a Prem Cup special team that goes down there full of 18-year-olds and Sam playing at 10 and me playing at 8, provided we put a performance in, what you want to do is make Toulon, who are probably the best team in Europe at the moment, work bloody hard, and I'm sure they will do that because that's our way. But it won't be a disaster if we come away and we don't have to go down to Toulouse the following week, won't it, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, there is part of me that quite fancies seeing us play down in Toulouse, but again, yeah, it's just another opportunity for us to be on the receiving end of a thumping, then going into the back end of the season, which we lose a bit of momentum. I think the best case scenario probably, and it pains me to say it because you want to win every game, is for us to have a really spirited performance that, like you say, for 60, 70 minutes, we really run Toulon close. And then maybe we don't quite get there in the end. But there's a lot of great individual performances and a lot of players can learn a lot. And there's still a lot of data there that Mark and the team can use going into the run-in. That's probably what the best thing, but that's a difficult mentality when you're a sports person at top level. You want to win every single game, no matter what. So look, if we win, I'm not going to be upset, of course. If we lose and that scenario plays out that I've just mentioned, I also won't be too disappointed. As Matt's already said, if we do then send out a bunch of kids and we don't learn anything from it and we get thumped on telly, that's where it's going to be disheartening to watch. I don't think any of us have ever watched a game where Saracens have lost but played really well and put everything into it that have come away and felt too bad about it. So it's what a weird situation to be in. We're very rarely in this kind of situation, aren't
we? We are, yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right, and I just looking forward to the boys putting out whoever. At the end of the day, whoever puts on shirts 1 to 23 with a Saracens badge on it are the best 23 players available at that point in time, and we trust them to play with that spirit in them, and that the coaching staff will set them out to go out there and give their best performance, and that's all we can hope for. And we wish them, whoever's playing next week, all the best on that one, don't we? So, well, I think we can finish this show here. We've done quite a good discussion there. Thank you, Sam, for joining us, and thank you, Matt, again for your time. You've done pretty well there, considering what's going on. It looks like you got your hand bandaged up. I mean, have you hurt yourself? I mean, John, I know John sat at home. He found a muscle in his leg apparently over the weekend coaching. So we wish John all the best, obviously, to get well there. But you okay there, mate?
Yeah, just aches and pains. Getting old.
Try being, what am I, 20 years older than you? And running a marathon, which I did mention last week. And I will say thank you very much to Loxley for putting that up on the SSA places and Saracens Fans Forum and whatever, and for everybody who's supported me so far. So we've made a few more quid for mounting your own there. So, and if anybody does want to get involved, just go to my Just Giving page and throw a £5 on and you get your sweepstake entry. But yeah, anyway, well, thank you everybody for listening in. Thank you to Sam and Matt, and we'll look forward to speaking to you next week after whatever happens down in the south of France. And if anybody is going down there and fancies bringing me back a nice bottle or something, I will greatly appreciate that as well, of course.
You can try.
This is the Fezcast.